Hey folks, in this video, we're going to continue our discussion about the Handbook for Social Work Writing. And this video is really about writing for class assignments. So in our previous video, we talked about step 1, which was reading the assignment to understand what the instructor is asking for. In this video, we're going to talk about organizational skills and time management. And these seem like fairly simplistic ideas, but time should be, and effort should be taken to do some planning before you dive into the work to make sure that you do the work well and on time. So it's critical to understand what the instructor is asking for, but then it's also critical that you spend some time so you get your work in on time and you're addressing the actual assignment. So we're going to talk about creating an outline for your finished assignment, and we're going to suggest that you do this first before you do anything else. And you want to make sure that you do this because it will focus all of your effort, meaning your planning, your research, your writing, so you get a well-written paper in on time. And we want to make sure that this outline matches the assignment requirements. You don't want to deviate your outline from what's written in the assignment without good reason. So we're going to give you some examples, and this will ensure that all aspects of the assignment are met and that you don't stray from the actual requirements of the assignment. So here's an example that we have for you. This was the example that's in the text and in the handbook itself, as well as we discussed this in the last video. So this was the personal problem assignment, and I'll just reread it to you. It says, think of a time that you asked for help to solve a personal problem. Write how you felt about the experience, what you did to learn about yourself during this experience, and think about one of your clients who asked you for help with a personal problem and to describe it. Now write about how your own experience asking for help influenced how you plan to work with the client. Discuss how both experiences relate to what you have learned in class and in practice about social work practice. So there's a lot of requirements for this, and you want to make sure that you address all of them. So here's an example of what a completed outline looks like. Notice the only thing that I've added is an introduction and a conclusion. These can really just be very brief statements about what the assignment is and what perhaps you have learned from it. But notice we have 3 real parts to this, and then an additional part on how this relates to class and reading. So the first part deals with the personal problems part, and that matches what we see in the assignment itself. You're asked to describe a problem that you've had, what the process has been like and the experience of asking for help, and what you learned about yourself. And you can see this reflected on the left-hand side. Then we have a major heading, which is the client problem. So that is, think about one of the clients who asked you for help with a personal problem and how they asked for help. And then that number 4, which is really the third part because we have the introduction, is how these relate to one another. And as you're outlining, you might want to think about how you're going to do that. Are you going to talk about what's similar between these things, what's different, or both? And then the last part is, how does this relate to class and readings? Now notice that everything that's in the assignment is in the outline, and the only things that are in the outline are in the assignment. So all your activity as you're moving forward should address these things. By the way, these major Roman numerals, 2, 3, 4, 5, those could all be headings in your final paper. Now let's look at the next example. This was the policy paper, and I cut off some of the very specifics on the page length just so we could see it here. But here you're asked to identify a social policy that you care deeply about, but that may be controversial. Describe the existing policy and why the issue is controversial. Use required readings from this class and other peer-reviewed sources to make the argument both for and against the policy. And be sure to equally represent both points of view. Now consider your client population, discuss whether the existing policy serves your clients well or is detrimental. And now in the outline, you can see that all this student has done is think about a policy that they might want to consider. It could change, but they're thinking about access to healthcare policy. And it might be because of the setting that they work in or the clients that they currently see. But there's an intro, and you're going to talk about access to healthcare in general. Perhaps you put in, why this is important to you. That could be in the intro. But again, very brief, a few sentences, no more than a paragraph. And then description of the social problem, which is access to healthcare, description of the problem, and then the current policy. We again see that on the left-hand side. And then we want the pros and cons. So we notice that in the assignment, it says you want the arguments for and against the existing policy. So those are broken out in the outline. So we have argument for the current policy, argument against the current policy, and then the application of current policy to client population. Again, these Roman numerals would make great headings in a final paper. But as you research your paper and draft your paper, you're going to want to make sure that all the Roman numerals get filled out as well as all the letters. So what you should do is think about trying this out. You want to create an outline for your assignment on your own. And then, since you're working with a writing partner that has the same assignment that you do, compare your outline with your writing partners. And they may not be identical, but they should be relatively similar. You should discuss where there are differences, and you might want to edit your outlines until they both meet all the requirements of the assignment. So once you have an outline, why do this and what's next? Well, the first thing you should do is you need to think about managing your time. Most social work students have a lot of time requirements, either in terms of work or your practica, classes, family time, paid jobs, all kinds of things. So once you have an outline, it'll give you a sense as to how you should plan your time. And you want to do this even if you have a really long time to complete your assignment. Then use your outline to figure out 3 things. When you will focus on each of the activities that you need to do in order to complete the assignment. Exactly what you will have to do, because we had seen in our examples that some papers require very little research and others require quite a bit. And then how long it will take to complete activities. And our suggestion is to use your due date as the endpoint and then work backwards. And if you look in the handbook on page 15, we give you some examples of what that might look like for an assignment. But you want to do that yourself and come up with really specific dates and times that you're going to work on this project, even if they have to change over time. So when you plan your time, look at your assignment, outline and due date for the paper. And when I say work backwards, you want to figure out exactly when you have to finalize and submit that paper, and then make time to do all of these activities, research and find literature. Now, if you are just using existing readings or textbooks that you already have, that's not going to take you as long as if you have to find new peer-reviewed journal articles that you have to sift through. You want to think about the time needed to draft your paper. And you'll see as we go through the handbook, we're going to suggest that you proofread and revise your paper at least twice before that final submission. So look at your calendars, figure out how much time you need. Our suggestion is to work in a little extra time. Things take longer than you would think, and things come up. But this is a great starting point and should help you complete your paper on time and written really well. Also, if you're going to use a writing center to look at some of your drafts and help with proofreading, you'll need to allocate time for that as well.